Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Spin Cycle Live. I'm your host, Nathan Hale. Today, we have a short show for you. Once again, it's Friday, June 6th. Fridays are always kind of a slower news day just in general. So we got three stories for you. And kind of, our last one's more of an opinion piece, I would say. But I think it hits to the core of where the Democrats are today. So I think it's worth a read. But without further ado, we should get right into it. But before we start, make sure you subscribe, like, share this with everyone you know. Let people know how great this show is. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, all of the platforms. I'm at Homonatian. The show is at Spin Cycle Live. Keep an eye out on all those for updates. Take a look at my X account if you haven't in a while, because I'm blowing up right now with a few of my posts. But yeah, let's get right into it with our very first story from the New York Post. U.S. adds 139,000 jobs in May as hiring remains steady despite tariff uncertainty. Hiring remained steady in May, and the unemployment rate was unchanged in a crucial economic report, as some worried that heightened uncertainty amid President Trump's tariffs would start to hit jobs. U.S. employers added 139,000 jobs last month, above expectation of 125,000, the Labor Department said on Friday. The unemployment rate held steady at 4.2%, even as some economists had cautioned that uncertainty could start to flame this figure. Quote, while it's encouraging to see that the economy has still added a healthy clip of jobs during the month of May, the next few job reports will be particularly important since a continued declaration could push the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates sooner rather than later. Glenn Smith, Chief Investment Officer at GDS Wealth Management, said in a note. Quote, Friday's job report shows slowing but still solid growth, which may warrant a rate at some point towards the end of the year at the Fed's November or December meetings. Employment continues to grow in healthcare, leisure and hospitality, and social assistance. Federal government jobs declined 22,000 in May. The total figure is down 59,000 since January after Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency took a hammer to government jobs in an effort to slash spending. But May's decrease was largely offset by state and local governments adding 21,000 jobs, resulting in a combined decline of just 1,000 overall government jobs. Average hourly earnings jumped 15 cents or 0.4% to $36.24 an hour in May. These earnings have increased 3.9% over the past 12 months. This is fantastic. This is great. We have a growing economy, we have growing jobs, and I hope that the Fed does cut interest rates. Interest rates need to be cut. Bring them back down. We need to get people the ability to start going out and buying homes. We also need to build more homes, right? We need to add just as many homes to the job market, well over that as we've added to, or we need to add just as many homes to the housing market as we add to the job market in May, right? We need hundreds of thousands of new housing units added to the United States to get housing prices down, a lot of them in these critical areas where housing has just shot through the roof, to kind of bring that supply price back down to a reasonable level. And hopefully bringing mortgage rates down, bringing interest rates down will help to get that there so that people have more buying power and actually want to go and purchase a home, right? If there's a whole bunch of people out there wanting to buy a home and not enough homes out there, slowly developers will start to fill them in and more housing is to be put in. But let's go ahead and move on to our next story. This comes from the Supreme Court. So June, as you all know, is the Supreme Court's big decision month. A whole bunch of big decisions are going to be made in June, especially towards the end of the month. So we'll be keeping you updated on all that. But this was a major one. So the Supreme Court sides with an Ohio woman in reverse discrimination case. It's not reverse discrimination, it's just discrimination, right? Discrimination is anyone's discrimination. You can't reverse it around just because they're white. CBS, I'm looking at you. The Supreme Court on Thursday revived a lawsuit from an Ohio woman who claims she was the victim of discrimination because her employer denied her a promotion because she's straight. In a unanimous decision, one say it again, a unanimous decision by the Supreme Court in the case of Ames v. Ohio Department of Youth Services, the High Court tossed out a ruling by a federal appeals court that dismissed Marlene Ames' claims because she failed to clear a higher bar applied to members of a majority group in order for her employment discrimination case to proceed. The justices concluded that a background circumstances requirement cannot be squared with Title IX or Title VII of the Civil Rights Act and sent Ames back to the lower courts for further proceedings. The background circumstances rule required plaintiffs who are members of a majority group to put forth more evidence showing that their employer is, quote, unusual because it discriminates against the majority. Ames had argued that the requirement unfairly imposed a higher burden on her as a heterosexual woman. The ruling from the Supreme Court makes it easier to pursue claims of reverse discrimination in 20 states and the District of Columbia that are covered by federal courts of appeals that still applied the standard. Quote, okay, so writing for the court, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said that the Supreme Court's case law, quote, makes clear that the standard for providing disparate treatment under Title VII does not vary based on whether or not the plaintiff is a member of a majority group. The background circumstances rule flouts that basic principle. Jackson noted that the required uniformly subjects all majority group plaintiffs to, quote, the same highly specific evidentiary standard in every case. Ames sued her employer, the Department of Ohio of Youth Services, after she said she was turned down for a promotion in favor of a gay woman and then demoted and replaced by a gay man. She alleged violations of Title VII, which prohibits discrimination in the workplace based on race, religion, national origin, and sex, which includes sexual orientation. Ames accused the department of discrimination against her on the basis of sexual orientation. So this is great. People are saying this is reverse discrimination. Like I said, this is not discrimination. This is not reverse discrimination. It's just discrimination. Just like it's not reverse racism, just racism. You can't have it reverse just because you're white, right? So this is fantastic. I love to see it. The court made the right decision. Let me point out once again, this was a unanimous decision by the court. All the liberal justices and conservative justices ruled exactly the same on this matter. And I just like to bring things like that up because I feel that when we're discussing Supreme Court cases that are often a little controversial, when justices don't rule the same, we like to point out, oh, you know, the conservative justices were wrong, the liberal justices were wrong, they're ruling on ideology. This is definitely not an ideological case. The liberal justices could have easily, if they were ruling on ideology, gone and said, nope, 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 nope. You know, minority groups have been discriminated against in the past, not white people are going to rule against this woman, but they all ruled exactly the same. So I just like to point out that the justices do rule together on a fairly regular basis, especially in somewhat controversial cases. These are brilliant legal scholars in their own right, even if they are on the liberal side. We don't always agree with them. Same thing with the conservatives, but they all have a lot of experience even before being on the Supreme Court. So just keep that in mind as we move forward with Supreme Court cases if they don't rule the way that you'd like them to. All right, our very last story today comes from BBC. Quote, we have a geriatric problem. Democrats wrestle with age-old issue. See what they did there? Age-old geriatric. Cute. For 33 years, Congressman Jim Clyburn's world-famous fish fry has been a must-attend event for members of the Democratic Party hoping to make a splash on the national stage. But after a blistering electoral defeat with an aging old guard, some are wondering if it's time for the party to make some new traditions. It was just over 5 years ago here in South Carolina that the 79-year-old Claiborne, a Democrat kingmaker in the state, gave the 77-year-old Joe Biden his highly coveted presidential endorsement. His past picks, like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, have all won the party's nomination, if not the White House. Claiborne's endorsement of Biden is widely regarded as helping the former vice president win South Carolina's primary and turn the tide in his struggling campaign. Since then, Democrats have had to reevaluate their choice for the aging Biden, who grudgingly abandoned his re-election bid last year amid a rising din of questions about his competency. After his successor, Vice President Kamala Harris, lost to Donald Trump, many wondered if he had hung on too long. Last month, Biden announced he had stage 4 prostate cancer, a condition with a grim prognosis that would have presented a national crisis if he had managed to win re-election. Now, many within the party, including some of those dining on fried fish and white bread at Claiborne's gathering last Friday, are wondering if it's time the party found new blood, especially after 3 congressional Democrats died in office this year alone. The losses meant that Republicans' slim majority in Congress was bolstered, allowing them to pass Trump's controversial spending bill by a single vote. Quote, "We have a geriatric problem," said Ashley McIntyre Stewart, specifically noting the recent House spending bill. Quote, "We need to get the younger community involved so we don't have the Republicans railroading us." According to a survey last month by Axios, more than half of the 30 Democrats in the House over age 75 are planning to seek re-election next year. My God, including Claiborne, whose term would end when he is 88 if he wins. 88, guys, 88 years old. Quote, "I will respond to the voters of South Carolina," he told the media who were at the fish fry. Quote, "I've been with them all month and not a single one of them has said to me they think I'm too old. Every one of them said to me, please don't leave." William Goodwin, a Democrat from Chicago visiting South Carolina, and stopped by the fish fry to see Claiborne and hear from 2 Democrat governors, Tim Walz of Minnesota and Wes Moore, Maryland, invited to speak. He said he respected the wisdom of elderly politicians like Claiborne and Biden, but his party needed a youth movement. Quote, "We need the activists," he said. "We need the energy from a variety of different backgrounds, not just age, to really come put our hands together and work towards getting some real elections won." So here's William Goodwin right here, in case you want to see him. So let's dissect this a little bit. Number one, politicians are way too old. We need age limits on members of Congress, not just term limits, in my opinion. I think that age limits would do us a whole lot more than term limits would. 88 years old. Do you really feel like, think to yourself, do you really think that an 88-year-old represents you in the United States government? Let me just ask you that. Do you feel like an 88-year-old represents you? I don't feel like an 88-year-old represents me. Surely not. And I'm not even the biggest advocate for getting, 30-something-year-olds. I'd like to see more 40 and 50-year-olds in government, frankly. I think that's a perfect age to go and get into politics and represent me. I feel very represented by 40 and 50-year-olds. I've been an old curmudgeon man since I was a teenager. So seeing some people who are more my own age spiritually in Congress would be refreshing. More 40 and 50-year-olds, I would love to see it. Not old elderly people. By the way, nobody likes to point out the fact that all these people have kids, grandkids, and some of them great-grandkids, and yet they're still choosing to work in government and mooch off the taxpayer and get rich off trading on the stock market than spend time with their grandkids and great-grandkids. Just saying. So, frankly, I think that we should be pointing that out more and be like, why aren't you spending time with your family, guys? Why are you still working and sucking on the government's teat instead of spending time with your grandkids. Just saying. So, the Democrats do have an age issue. They certainly do. The Republican Party is filled with young people now. We have a very strong youth movement, and in the conservative movement, we have young Republicans that are active in most major cities. Heck, we have the Log Cabin Republicans, which is made up of a lot of younger gay Republicans. There's Turning Point USA, which is a huge national youth movement. It's not directly affiliated with Republicans, but it's basically conservatives. There are so many. There's Young Americans for Freedom or Young Americans for Prosperity, whatever it's called. There's any number of youth organizations that are driven towards conservative principles that have had to pop up because young conservatives have nowhere to go. So the young conservative movement, I feel, in the Conservative Party is actually very strong. And it's really showing its head recently, just because we've won the election. Versus, a lot of people, myself included, went to these organizations. We had nowhere else to go. And we didn't feel comfortable expressing our opinions in public. So I don't see the Democrats getting on the same train because they've tried it time and time again and their organizations fail. We saw it most recently with the whole Parker and Dean controversy, where they were trying to make a Turning Point USA alternative and go to campuses and follow Charlie Kirk around. And that whole organization fell apart because ultimately Democrats can't build anything, they just break things. The other thing I want to point out is that this guy says that we need to get activists. Where does he say activists? We need the activists, he said. This dude right here with he looks very awkward, the fish fry. But so he says we need activists. What does that mean? Well, the left has taken this position that being an activist is one of those virtuous things you can do. If you don't have a job, if your whole job is going out and making noise and complaining all the time, that's very virtuous of you to do, to go be an activist. When in reality, we as conservatives see that you need to build something first. We want to actually build things with our hands. We want to be boots on the ground, build things with our hands, which is why I feel that the conservative youth organizations have functioned a lot better over the years than the liberal ones. Because number one, we don't get offended if you say something out of context. And number two, we can know actually how to build things. We go to campuses and actually build organizations. Every single Turning Point chapter was built by a select group of students at that school and built from the ground up to gain membership. Some of these chapters have hundreds of members a part of them. There are huge Turning Point chapters out there that have had to be built up brick by brick. And we as conservatives know how to do that because we value, number one, building things over activism, right? So you don't see a push in the conservative movement to get more activists. We see a push in the conservative movement to get more people who actually want to build things, who actually know how to speak, who actually know how to cover, breaking events and articulate their thoughts coherently and have good opinions. A lot like this show, frankly. So I think they're on the right track to an extent, saying that we need to get more younger people involved, but I don't think they have quite the right idea when it comes down to it. But with that, we're going to have to end today's episode. Let me pull my screen up here and do my outro for you all. Where is it? Here we go. All right. So thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of Friday. This was kind of a fun show. I think I'll find some more opinion pieces out there, unless you absolutely hated that segment. It was kind of interesting to talk about and see still how out of touch the Democrats are with their actual electorate base, thinking that they need to get more activists when they have thousands of activists already. AOC is an activist, frankly, so is Ilhan Omar. But with that, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back here on Monday with another show for you, 6 p.m. Eastern time, I believe. and then 8 o'clock for our rerun. So if you missed the show, if you came in late, this show will be running 8 o'clock tomorrow evening on Saturday, June 7th. But with that, I have been Nathan Hale. This has been Spin Cycle Live. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday and an amazing weekend. Love you all. Mwah. Peace out.